The inclined ship. 1. She was standing near a spot called the spot of the radiant planet, waiting for the lost probe that was picking up its intermittent signals. This strange planet in which nothing could be seen as a result of the intense light coming from it and in it, and this strange, bright light was one of the causes of life on this radiant planet. Because it includes all the forms that support life for all creatures on the planet. The tilting ship was emitting faint lights. She had been motionless for a long time. The radioactive planet cut off all communications from the ship. She froze in place after she was stuck in its orbit. And a great column of light rising from the planet stuck to her and froze her in place. There was no land or dry land. She was walking around in it. A group of objects surrounded by strange halos of light. Everything near him malfunctions. As if he refuses to relinquish control of anything inside or around him. It is a kind of orphan locomotive planet. He roams alone as he pleases, with his creatures and strange inhabitants. Self-sufficient in everything. The tilted, frozen ship with its frozen sailors surrounded by this light and strange light halos. As if it were an iron fist from the hand of the radiant planet. They were reeling between life and death, screaming without a sound, living without life or movement. And the two who were sent to discover the planet before the light and auras consumed their ship were roaming that planet, paralyzed from all movement and suspended in its sky. As if they were swimming in an earthly sea devoid of waves. It embraced them between its waves with all kindness and enveloped them in a light cover. Like a mother holding her child in her embrace. Gently. Have you had a long time, astronauts? Who has the haste to know the future? And you are protected with all care and kindness. As guests of a generous house owner. Sleep in his embrace and nothing will touch you. Get to know each other in a deeper way. Accompany his solitude and you will have a generous friend. The astronauts of the tilted ship who were chasing the missing probe. They reached point X, the source of the signal, in that space darkness. They found themselves surrounded by emptiness. The signal did not stop, even though there was nothing there. Where did the signal come from without a sender? Until a small spot of light appeared and broke into the dark house. identifying itself as the reception girl. Its light was reflected in the eyes of the pioneers, and their eyes longed to shake her hand and know the fate that led her to them. But wait, pioneers, there is more to the story, and not everything that glitters is gold. The dot disappeared as it appeared without saying goodbye. Perhaps the brightness of their eyes frightened her. Escaping is better than staying. But she left a mark behind her. It was a definition or proof of existence. That effect was like a kind of spiral movement. He called his friend, "Why did you leave me in this emptiness and in front of strangers? Please come back and take me with you forever." Then the pioneers responded to the call of grief, and they sent to trace the origin of that strange messenger, who called out to them shyly and from afar. Then he put on the garb of invisibility. Quietly, 2 capsules swam, each one carrying an astronaut fetus in its belly, and circled around the spot's birthplace. Perhaps they will find the source of her birth, or their heart will guide them to the one who gave birth to her, and they will find a name or a family for her within the folds of the void, with the insistence of the children of the 2 capsules not to return without meeting the strange messenger and knowing who sent him, and signed the attendance and departure book after an initial introduction session, including the full mark. In the space court, we will let you, O emptiness, speak. It is a duty for every question that will be directed to you. You stole those glances as if you were a bride on her wedding night. Why did he bury himself without anyone knowing? Is he an accused, a fugitive, or a wanted person who fears being arrested? The owners of the 2 capsules addressed their companions in a whisper and slowly, and the sound of their breathing grew louder with each whisper. They said to their companions, "We are facing a strange situation here." As if the darkness was split in 2. We simply do not understand the matter. Then something inexplicable happened when half of the 2 capsules disappeared in a very strange way, and with the astronauts of the mothership screaming about what they saw. Then they were informed of the immediate return, and that they did not see the other half of the 2 capsules. The strangest thing is that the disappearance of the other half did not affect their bodies, or the 2 capsules. In fact, everything was going normally, and the conversation going on between them focused on trying to understand what was going on. And little by little the 2 capsules moved until they reached the mothership, with half a visible and half hidden, and in this strange situation, they were unable to get them out of the 2 capsules and left them in the hope that they might find some explanation for what was happening. They said with trembling mouths that they felt some heat where the white dot appeared. And then it was as if there was a soft hand gently touching them. They soar through their subconscious mind. There are birth processes of some kind for luminous creatures. They grow immediately after birth to gigantic and complete sizes. Entire galaxies are born, appear and disappear in seconds, and entire universes are very small, as if they were snowballs rolling one after another. Then flashes of light illuminate the entire darkness through successive explosions. They come out of each other. They added in a hoarse, harsh voice that the entire area was moving at an indescribable speed, creating a state of spatial division and a strange anomaly that paralyzed and froze all movement. Everything became as if it was being created, growing, living its life, and dying in a single moment. The ship's pioneers began to analyze the new reality that befell them. They realized that they were facing a previously unknown cosmic situation, and a new type of existence that may be like a womb that embraces fetuses. He works to give birth to her. But it is a strange womb that has no space and time, and they may not survive it. Half visible and half hidden. It was not possible to know how their halves disappeared and how they remained alive, until everything slowly started to disappear. It vanishes like a passing cloud, and within seconds the ship and everyone on it vanished. And they fell into a trap set for them by some consciousness with unknown characteristics. He swallowed them within seconds after he took control of everything, searching for any kind of life. Inside it is a fetus that has been lying dormant for a long time. He yearns for freedom and existence. And the probe was just a bait to drag them to point. To begin the ceremony of the birth of the fetus after it inhaled the fragrance of existence, and was awakened to charge itself with the currents of life, and take its role in it without getting bored or tired. The birth ceremony began with a small white dot. Then spiral auras surrounded her from everywhere. From afar, a path of millions of light spots appeared that gathered to celebrate the new baby. After they gathered and formed its nucleus and interior. And each time the baby increased in swelling and increased in size. It is fed by swarms of light spots that flock to it like pilgrims from nowhere and from every direction. In a world that knows no limits or definition of the scale of time. A moment is a time, and time is a moment. The cries and roars of the emergence of a new world rose. The strange qualities of light are its essential component. And with physical laws whose properties are unknown. Bullying all laws. It proudly presents to you the planet with stellar characteristics. but with completely new concepts. The Cosmic Life Factory and its engineers always provide us with revolutionary versions. An unlimited energy of life and quasi-life. She is creating living, pulsating universes and worlds. Nothing goes in vain. Five. The presence of the planet has been completed. Inside and out, his light began to fill the area around him, announcing the beginning of a new era for his world, and the release of all his captives, and it appeared. The ship was positioned obliquely in an orbit close to it. After the owners of the two capsules borrowed from it, to copy from them some standards for his nascent world. The force that dominates this awareness wants to carry out more reconstruction in all ways. Then the owners of the two capsules and the ship's astronauts appeared. They roamed the sanctuary of the radiant planet, in silence and blind obedience to their new master. It was increasing in size and radiance, and those radiant tornadoes were writhing like giant snakes between its sides. She has intelligence and awareness as if she were a living being. Among the light spreading to every corner of the planet, I heard the sounds of a cesarean section, and the strokes of small hands from behind the light fog, flirting with drops of life. Are they children of light, a kind of intelligent, conscious creatures? The jungle of the universe. She set a genius trap to get out of the predicament she got into. Fate caressed them with the human presence near them, which might help them open the dimensions closed to them. Then life began in every corner of the planet. We must remember that time is variable in those deep cosmic jungles, and the points of light spread like grains of wheat. It was the awaited birth of another generation of creatures of light. She began to see, speak, and think. The Sons of Light had a story and a novel. A story folded, buried and forgotten within the walls of the universe. But not after today, with the dry memories they carry in their hearts. They are a type of existentialism that does not die in a traditional way. They carry something in their hearts for the human race. A story of revenge and war that has never ended, so woe to humanity for what awaits. Six. The human tilting ship in orbit of the radioactive planet, and its pioneers who became in a state of neither death nor life. They fell into the probe's trap and trick. Spiraling halos of light surrounded her. Suddenly the captain woke up without moving. He opened his eyes, glowing with a strange light. His mummified body moved with light waves that enveloped him like spider webs, dragging him to another location where he was wanted as a representative of the human race. He would stand alone on a road that he would not see. He will inherit something he does not know. Something from his ancient ancestors that he cannot handle. But someone has to pay the price. He dragged the captain between the fangs of light. To remove his mummified and suspended body from the tilting ship and slip into the radiant planet, suspended light beings surround him and watch him moment by moment, guarding him and keeping him in this grey state, and preparing him for the awaited meeting. There is nothing to say except to tell the truth. Through a wormhole tunnel, the captain reached a great courtyard. He stood in the middle of it with a luminous, radiant body, until life began to creep into this great courtyard. Radiant beings of different types and shapes were lined up in circular shapes, including the bird and some of them sitting on golden-colored chairs. Faded colors mixed with some wavy shapes, and with a majestic ceremony indicating greatness and an advanced, sophisticated civilization. The captain was like a dot hanging on a great phosphorescent wall. He lacks his 5 senses. Then a ray hit his head, causing him to flip over several times in that courtyard. And he was struck by another ray that shot out like a spear from the bottom of the courtyard to the top, penetrating his body and pinning him in place. With his subconscious mind, he began to hear through a telepathic process between him and the radiant beings that were appearing in front of him. And it seemed from their appearance that they were the leading beings there. He heard them saying, "Hello, heir of humanity, we have waited for you for a long, long time. You have things that belong to us that we would like to take back. We hope that you do not mind. O heir of mankind, rejection is not among your options now." Seven. We will now tell you a story. The story of civilizations that were tainted by your human race, wandering around this existence and making it a stage for its kitsch art. He did not care about the sophisticated audience that disappointed him. Wondering who we are? Well, we will answer you and tell you a cosmic story that was played by your deceitful gender and wanted to win everything. If you deceive each other, will you not deceive the rest of the races? First, you must know that there are human civilizations that preceded you that you know nothing about and that are ancient in time. It has developed and its knowledge has reached the sky. It possessed amazing technical and scientific capabilities that allowed it to become one of the civilizations roaming the universe. You were once a nation traveling in the universe with great power. You got to know some cosmic civilizations and they helped you reach these great, sublime sciences. But you chose a seat in the front row and you do not deserve it. Who are you that you should be among the first row? And what is your history of existence? You unfortunates, you put yourselves on a difficult path and facing very great nations. You showed the worst of you when you fought against nations that you are not able to fight. We were, unfortunately, among your many victims. When the entire Earth was ruled by one civilization with very advanced sciences. A civilization completely different from your mechanical sciences and what you are today. She possessed esoteric knowledge in all matters of life. It is like magic in everything from control, construction and movement, universal travel, airports, transportation, and teleportation, medical sciences, engineering sciences, and high-level space sciences. With rules and theories and science, not mechanical. You learned about the nations of Paquin and different planets. And you were amazing sex. Unless that moment came during a visit by your then leader to our people. And he saw one of our great princesses. He fell madly in love with her and decided to marry her despite the biological difference between us. He harnessed his knowledge of medicine to reduce biological differences. And performed several operations to change his physical structure to match the characteristics of the princess. It was a condition of her father, the king, that he change his physical and biological characteristics in order for him to agree to the marriage. When your leader completed the physical transformation process, he proposed to marry the princess. After the king, the princess's father, made sure that your leader met the conditions. He found that he was missing only one element. And the transformation process would be completed. That element that stood in the way of your arrogant leader. It was an element that he probably would not be able to integrate into his body no matter what he did. And it is extremely important to us. Yes, we are a nation of living cells. This is what distinguishes us from many people and creatures. It keeps us alive, generation after generation. Even if none of us remain, our physical cells do not die. There is something similar to it in your land in some way. You have it on the land when drought strikes an area. You look at it and see nothing but death. But do not believe everything you see. As the rain falls, even if after years, cells of types of creatures that were in a state of deep slumber will begin to wake up. They begin to grow and create, to return to being active organisms full of life as they were before the drought. We had this advantage that allowed us by creation once again. Despite our falling into a global war zone, we were destined to be a crossing point and many stargates for the passage and cosmic movement of many factions and cosmic beings. As much as we benefited from these gates, it was one of the greatest calamities that destroyed our civilization time after time through colonial wars from powerful powers and nations that annihilated our civilization many times, or wars between these nations that the gates brought to us. For reasons including seizing these important gates. When the opportunity for life to emerge was presented every time we were eliminated on our planet, life invented a way for us to live again. Just as some of your creatures do. In the clutches of our planet, cells from our bodies that were dormant are waiting for the opportunity to begin rapid biological growth processes. Fusion, mating, growth, reproduction, and physical cloning. Without losing what we learned from previous knowledge before death, we inherit knowledge through the body. Your leader, who could not find a way or technique to do this property, would have been impossible for him to marry the princess. Because in doing so, our nation will lose, with time and reproduction, some of its genetic characteristics that kept us alive despite everything. And we are certain that its action will not be the last. He had to accept reality and go away. But he refused and insisted on marrying the princess, and threatened that he would find a way to completely eliminate us. Your crazy leader. After the operations he performed to transform into our race previously under our supervision, carried out more transformation operations to become another extremely powerful being with extremely supernatural abilities. He set a goal for himself to become the master of the universe, and for him to marry the princess against anyone's will. He had become completely insane, and he had to be stopped before he destroyed himself and the universe. He began to transform all the humans under his command into creatures similar to himself, using complex and advanced biological processes, to become a supernatural nation that lives forever with bodies bearing new characteristics that can survive and rebuild their bodies again despite injuries. He promised them that they would become indisputable masters of the universe and would occupy every part of it. He shot them with the arrows of his madness that pierced their minds and forgot that existence has its own leaders and guards. After he created a great, invincible army that survives under all kinds of conditions and does not perish. He was invading nations and planets and wreaking havoc on them, colonizing and destroying them, then establishing a colony of their own in which he placed the embryos that carried his characteristics, until they become the inhabitants of the planet and its owners of their own kind. His policy was the policy of genetic colonialism, until the day came when he gathered all his forces and began to invade our planet. He first asked for the princess and threatened to crush the planet and turn it into ashes if we did not respond. We refused to give him the princess because he would destroy us either way. The princess said that she would go to him to save what could be saved from our nation, and she would beg him to leave the planet as it is. She devised a survival plan in case he did not respond to her expected response. So the princess chose a group of our people and put them in a thermal reactor until none of them remained. Then she collected their cells and she hid it in her body. But vanity and revenge took hold of your master's heart, and the princess's pleas at his feet were of no use to his black heart. He ordered the destruction of the planet with all their weapons and power, because he knows that we can rise and exist again. In front of the princess's eyes and ears, she could only do one thing: go along until it reaches an orbit close to the orbit of the sun. Then it will run away and throw itself into it when it becomes on the same line with the Earth. Our dear princess made this sacrifice for two goals. The first goal was to not let him win what he wanted, and the second goal, aware of humanity, was to throw herself into the heat of the sun, in order to dissolve her blessed body, of which only her cells will remain. Then the explosions and solar rays will throw her cells along with the other cells, carrying them with them, and settling on planet Earth. To find the ideal environment to grow again without anyone knowing. And her grandchildren will find the appropriate way to survive, especially since, as I told you, we do not lose knowledge and memories and pass them on through the cells and the body. Without your leader's knowledge, we began to grow and multiply on the ground. We were taking human form so that our presence would not be noticed among you. We meet secretly and discuss the method we will take to escape. We study all your techniques and sciences. We meet secretly with other races on your land, some of whom you brought, aware of mankind, as your slaves. Others were from the armies of nations spread throughout the universe. They came for reconnaissance, surveillance, and spying. You have made the universe an arena for your wars, and it was necessary to put an end to you. Through careful monitoring of you, we found that the genetic transformation processes in your bodies had some defects. With the succession of generations, your longevity was a reason for the start of internal conflicts. Your origins were traced back to you in some way, and the creation of a complete human being. Despite the success of the process in general, seems to be an impossible thing. However, getting rid of hereditary and genetic characteristics in the long term is ineffective, and returning them with modified human characteristics will upset the equation and disturb the stability of your bodies. He creates creatures from you with distorted characteristics. We chose to wait and see what would happen to you. Will you destroy yourselves, whether intentionally or unintentionally? Will we see an end to your gender deformed with the intention of development? Your leader who was traveling in an invasion operation as usual. He suffered a major setback when he was deceived in that raid and entered the area of vortex of fire. These are enormous magnetic currents that crush anyone who approaches them. They were made as a barrier to defend a group beyond the Upper Basin Nebula. Despite the warning of his leaders not to enter them. As a result of his extreme arrogance and his possession of an invincible army, he thought he was able to cross it. The arrogant leader entered the area of the currents and reached the middle of it. Bragging in front of his leaders, saying to them, "Did I not tell you that I am an immortal creature that nothing can defeat me?" Then he sent a message to the leaders of the Upper Basin Nebula, offering them to surrender or be crushed. The vanguard of his army entered that nebula after passing through the magnetic currents. And he stood in the middle of the currents, boasting of his great strength, not knowing that it was an elaborate trap set for him. Perhaps these were the last words he uttered, offering to surrender to the upper nebular group. Suddenly the current stopped and complete calm prevailed. And secretly he is oblivious the magnetic currents were redirected after being modified to transform into a suction electromagnetic force to a nearby isolated dwarf star. They prepared all the equipment and weapons of the upper nebular group and struck its core with all their might and blew it up. The powerful suction electromagnetic currents pulled the explosive explosions of the dwarf star and its giant fiery flames, whose temperature reached millions of degrees, to where the human army was located. The gates of hell were opened upon them in every sense of the word. They were swallowed up by huge fiery tongues and streams. And they were burned in tornadoes of fire, and not a single one of them remained. After the land lost its leaders in that war, we ignited a war of liberation within it, and we had been planning it for a long time. We placed a large number of us in important positions while they were disguised as human beings. We took control of the joints of government little by little. And by deception we spread everywhere and controlled everything. Until we crowned our control with the rule of the entire earth. And we announced our cosmic origins. We established the Earth Council, which included components from all races. We divided the Earth into sections, and each race had a section to live in. Given that we lost our worlds in the universe, believe it or not, your land was made up of worlds within one world. Many races living together. We decided to put our knowledge and combine it together in order to return and rebuild our homelands again. And find scientific and non-scientific ways to build our civilizations again. So we sought the help of whomever we could reach and contact from among the races and nations of the universe. Received wonderful help from some of them. And developed our tools, science, and equipment. And searched for the locations of our previous worlds and began planning to begin the implementation process. We know that it is difficult for you, O inheritor of humanity, to understand the extent of the originality of the sciences and their advance in quality and quantity over your current sciences. Parted each race of beings returns to where their previous world existed, after they prepared themselves to rebuild it. It was our turn when we reached full readiness for implementation. We set off towards our lost world to revive it again. But we were surprised by the presence of a strange object in the place of our old planet. A very giant structure. We do not know where it came from, who was in that giant structure. What does he want and what is his gender? We did not waste valuable time and immediately sent an initial reconnaissance and communications mission to study him and try to communicate with him and tell him that we are here with pure intentions. We were afraid that they wanted to revive the cosmic stargates that existed on our ancient planet and control them. But we did not get any answer. And the idea came to us of searching for the coordinates of the gates and seeing if they were revived again. This would be a great disaster, and that would mean another war with another race. We found some gates. So we decided to enter through one of them into the giant structure. We chose a trained and equipped cell and entered it with a teleportation process. When they were inside that structure, they found a maze of endless corridors. Hundreds and hundreds of them without an end or beginning. Then we received news from Sel. It says that the corridors of the maze contain portals that lead to other worlds and galaxies. He has created many more portals. And whoever does this has a goal and something to hide. Because we did not understand how this happened, we decided to destroy it with several blows from all our might, given its gigantic size. Especially since we did not find any creature or being there. I wish we had not done that. Through our observatories we noticed several explosions occurring in several galaxies and a number of planets and star systems. In a way, that structure, with its passages and cosmic gates, transferred our blows with which we wanted to destroy it to those worlds and galaxies. This shocked us, and we knew that it would lead to all-out wars between these races, as each one of them would accuse the other of attacking him, and conflicts would break out. Later we realized that it was an ambush and a trap plan to create wars in the universe based on the location of our planet. At the same time, portals appeared everywhere the explosions reached. Whoever did that wanted to kill two birds with one stone. The first was the outbreak of global wars between races. And secondly, ensuring that our planet is not created here again by making the intergalactic councils control it and making it a besieged place that prevents residence or reconstruction. The Union of Councils arrested us after accusing us of wanting to spread discord in the universe, thinking that we were the ones who deliberately caused these strikes. We were tried by being exiled to the dark eighth dimension, which is the dimension from which it is difficult to escape. And it is not possible to contact or see those in it, that is. It is like a cosmic prison. You, O human beings, were the cause of all this chaos. And every technology or power you had to be removed. Before you caused the annihilation of the universe and created endless wars. We have been imprisoned for a very long time because of you. Over time, we were able to make a small hole in the wall of the eighth dimension to provide an outlet for us. Through it, we saw a strange-looking device of primitive manufacture floating on its face. After examining it, we knew that it might be a human-made product called the probe. We realized that it was our chance to escape this deadly dimension and exploit it as bait to attract you to us to make a larger opening. We will attract the two capsules that you sent to the probe's sending point. The probe's imaginary sending point was actually the coordinates of the hole in the wall of the dark eighth dimension. So we inserted only half of the two capsules into the eighth dimension in order to expand the size of the hole. So half disappeared and another half remained visible to you. We pulled your primitive ship through the 2 capsules to the same point without you realizing it. The opening became wide enough for us to get out of. We needed energy to get out, and you, the human race, ironically, were the ones on a date with our destiny. We turned your spiritual and physical energies into fuel to operate the electromagnetic reactors, until we ran out of the dark nebula of the 8th dimension from which nothing penetrates. And we, since time and mass are variable, we can perform several operations without the need for haste or haste. We do not control it, but we can carry out many actions in only a few moments. And here is our planet that we built again in moments. We will obtain our acquittal before all nations and races and the Union's approval for our return as a full member of the Council. We will be staunch guardians of the stargates and will not allow them to be tampered with again for the safety of the universe. It seems, from what we have seen of equipment, spaceships and devices using primitive mechanical science of your own making, that the Union of Universal Councils has placed the Earth under its guardianship since the appearance of your arrogant leader. He decided to deprive you of all advanced scientific techniques and presented you with primitive science that will never lead you to what you were before. He stripped you and destroyed all the advanced tools and industries you owned. He reversed the biological processes of your bodies so that they slowly returned to what they were before. He returned you to primitive times to learn everything again. He will always keep you under constant surveillance. And he will intervene if you try to destroy the universe again. But this time will be your last and mortal. Go, heir of humanity, and convey these messages to your kind before it is too late.